Hello, Melissa. Thank you for joining us on Smarter Markets here at IETA's North America Climate Summit 2023.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. You're my favorite podcast, and I'm not just saying that.
That's a great way to start.
Like first thing on a Saturday, I'm on it.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate that. And I've been looking forward to talking with you because you are doing something near and dear to our heart at Smarter Markets, which is building markets, building market infrastructure at Emstream. And I was hoping you could walk us through a little bit what you're doing in the carbon markets.
Thanks. So we've actually got a couple of companies. I've got Emstream, which is a tech-enabled brokerage, which is really the foundation customer of the tech company, which is the company I'd wanted, which is Emsurge. And that's really focused on digitalization of highly bespoke, fragmented OTC commodity markets. We launched, first of all, in liquefied natural gas. And then from liquefied natural gas, we launched into carbon because the LNG industry was looking at using carbon offsets to promote carbon neutral LNG, which is kind of fallen out of favor somewhat. But this concept of carbon compensating commodities is one that I'm quite passionate about, and I really believe is it's a pragmatic way to get to net zero faster.
And, like me, you started off in the commodities markets, and now you're working in carbon markets. And the word we hear a lot is, of course, digitization. I was wondering if you could walk us through, what does that mean in practical terms for people who aren't as involved in it?
To me, I see the digitalization challenge across the board as being extensive. People talk about wanting transparency. Transparency is only possible at this kind of scale that we need through digitalization. And that digitalization needs to be done in a way that enables transparency to be fair and equitable across the board and to give open access to everyone to that same data set. So for us, we've been looking very specifically at that buyer's journey. So when someone wants to procure at scale, so one LNG cargo is 250,000 tons of carbon. And what we found when we entered the market was there wasn't a way to just easily source that kind of volume and know what the optional prices was. It would take a while if you went to the brokers for them to come back to you with a list after they spoke to people. So where we had designed for LNG a platform to basically organize and structure an order book. So this idea of each person taking ownership of their data. So we don't own anyone's data. We ask for the rights to relicense that data out to participants. And so by everyone taking ownership and inputting their data in one place, it means it's much more manageable to then see where the live market is, rather than everyone sending their data to a central point, and then that central point and that person then having to input it into a system. And you get this issue then of stale orders. So it was pretty much from my own pain point of having to deal with stale orders. You phone someone in the market in Asia, they tell you they want to buy carbon credits, you spend the day calling around the world at what's available. By the end of the day, you don't know if they've now sourced the credits that they needed, and you don't know if the first people you spoke to have changed their position at all.
And have you found participants in the carbon markets more receptive to digitalization than, say, in the other commodity markets? Is there something about carbon that makes it more naturally digitalized?
Carbon's been amazing because the provenance of that carbon credit is extremely important. And so, within that space, it's a highly proliferated market. People care about where that credit has come from, what the community benefits are, what the SDGs are, where the money's really going back to. All of these kind of additional data points that go hand in hand with the sale of the credit means it's not so simple as just saying, I want this product and this volume, and then having these comparable prices. You really have a huge number of data points associated with every single product that you have. And the whole industry is, wanting to transform, it's wanting to scale, and you can't scale without digitalization. I like the example of Uber, where when Uber first assessed it's a total addressable market, it calculated what that current demand for taxis was and taking a share of that market. It didn't factor in the impact its technology would have if successful on stimulating demand. And I think the carbon market really needs to find its Uber or its digitalization path to really stimulate that next wave of growth and to support it.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about the impact of some of the events of this year on that path to scaling, because there was a lot of growth in carbon markets over the past couple of years. This year it's been a bit more transitional. So there's been challenges in operationalizing the Article 6 markets. There's been challenges in the voluntary carbon markets with media, reports questioning reputation and quality on some projects. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how is that impacting how people are using carbon markets and the technology and the infrastructure that you're building?
I think it's a really exciting time to be in the market, and the changes that we are seeing needed to take place. And it was almost like we had carbon market pilot or phase one, and we're now entering a new stage of the carbon markets development, like an extra level of maturity where people have realized that this can be a really good tool at scaling climate finance. It can be a really good tool to redistribute wealth from the developed nations, which have caused the climate impact, and the developing world, which is suffering the brunt of the climate impact. And in order to do that, though, the carbon market needs to transform itself in a way that it can be trusted. And if we're going to deploy all this capital, we want to make sure we're getting bang for our buck, And so you've had a number of different initiatives. You've had the VCM, the VCMI, you've had the TSVCM initially, and then it's now morphed into the Integrity Council. You've had the rating agencies. I think the rating agencies like Severa and B0, Renosta now, Calix, they're doing a great job at enabling people to get to grips with what is quality. Though I think the market was doing a fairly good job before then. The fact that you've got some credits which are selling at $1 and other credits that are selling at $30 within the nature-based solution space. And then, if you're including direct air carbon capture, you're going up to like $600+ per ton. But, so the market itself has been pricing in this quality. But what's happening now is people are saying, actually, we're going to have quality thresholds. And the next generation of credits and the project developers that are coming into this space are raising that bar. And for me, it's not fair that, the Guardian articles are honing in on legacy projects. It's like comparing the original Nokia with the newest iPhone and saying it was bad. It wasn't. It was great at the time. But things move on. And I think our understanding of how to put together projects has improved, and technology's helped that. Things like improving baselines, that's only come with digitalization.
And at many conferences like this one, a lot of there are interesting panels, there's interesting conversations in the hallway. I was curious if there's anything you've heard over the past day or two that you're like, oh, that's an idea that I really want to take home that I think is really worth